How's it going, guys? I'm Mike, and I produce music, and I write songs, and I do all that fun stuff in my home studio. I'm going to tell you today how you can make your own home studio, get started at least. And I'm just going to be covering the fundamentals, just the essentials today. First thing is you got to have a microphone. Then from your microphone, you're going to have a cable, and that cable is going to go to your converter or your interface. This is my interface right here. It's the Apogee Ensemble. Then your converter is going to convert the electrical signal it receives from your microphone into a digital signal, and it's going to send the digital signal out through a digital cable to your computer. Then once your computer has your audio information in digital form, then you're going to need a program on your computer to read that information, so you need recording software. Once you have recorded, you're going to want to listen to what you just recorded. So you need either headphones or monitors. And I'd recommend both, actually. You need a microphone, you need a converter, you need a computer, you need recording software, and you need some type of listening device, headphones or monitors. So let's talk about these individual necessities for the home recording studio individually, starting with microphones. So there are lots of different kinds of microphones. You've got ribbon microphones, you've got dynamic microphones, you've got small condenser microphones, you've got large condenser microphones, and blah, 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 blah. What microphones you need depends on what you're planning to do. You might be a singer-songwriter, you might be a voiceover person, you might want to become a recording engineer, in which case you're going to need lots of different kinds of microphones to capture lots of different kinds of instruments. But I'm just going to recommend two microphones. If I was going to get one microphone, I would get the AKG 414. It's about $1,000. If that's too much, the other microphone that I would get is the Shure SM7B. That's this microphone right here, the Shure SM7B. And this microphone's about $250 to $350. I would get either one of those microphones if I was going to have to choose one microphone. Now, it's generally recommended that if you're just going to get one microphone to start out with, you're going to want to get a large condenser microphone. The AKG 414, which is what I'm speaking into right now, is a large condenser microphone. But again, it's $1,000, and you could always get a less expensive one. Just do some searching. At the end of the day, if it really doesn't matter, once you're in that price range, any of them are going to be okay. So again, I'd recommend the AKG 414 if you want to lay down the cash, $1,000. Or I would go ahead and get the dynamic microphone, the Shure SM7B. It's an awesome microphone, the Shure SM7B. So many people record their vocals on the Shure SM7B. But it also works for acoustic guitar, electric guitar especially, for kick drums, for bass. It's just a great all-around microphone. So moving on to the converter, okay, the second fundamental piece of a home recording studio. The great thing about converters today is they're getting less and less expensive, but they're getting better and better quality. Now think of a converter as almost like a digital camera. What a digital camera does is it takes in the physical signals or waveforms it receives in the form of light, and it converts it into a digital signal. And then what you do is you take out your SD card and you put it in the computer, and now you have digital representations of what your camera was capturing. And the same idea applies with audio converters. It receives an electrical signal from a microphone, and it basically takes digital pictures of that electrical waveform, and it sends that digital information to your computer. So it's very much just like a camera, but it's a camera for audio. For the price, I believe nothing beats the Scarlett series by Focusrite. You can have, I think, 2 inputs, 4 inputs, or 8 inputs if you want to. But right now, I think when you're starting out, you really only need 2 inputs. Although I would certainly argue for more inputs when it comes to workflow, but I'm going to talk about that in a different video. So that's what I would recommend. If you don't want to spend too much money, the Focusrites are awesome. But if you wanted to invest in something a little more pricey, but is just top of the line, is the Universal Audio Apollo. Now those run to about $2,000 to $3,000. So if you have the cash, I would certainly get one of those. All right, so as we said, from the converter, we're going into the computer. Now, what do you need? What kind of computer do you need? Laptops these days are really powerful, and you could totally get away with making great music on laptops. The two big things that you want to pay attention to are RAM. You want to have a good amount of RAM. I think 8 gigs would be sufficient, but even that's quite a bit of RAM. And then you want to have pretty good processing power. So it's pretty simple. Just get a laptop and try to get a good amount of RAM and a good amount of processing power, and you should be totally fine. All right, so now once we're in the computer, we want some type of recording software. You can get Pro Tools, you can get Logic, you can get Sonar, you can get Ableton, you can get Fruity Loops, you can get Cubase. These are all different kinds of recording softwares. They all basically do the same thing. If I was going to go with one, if I was going to recommend one, Pro Tools, hands down 100%. So last thing to cover is monitors. It's kind of a hard thing to say. Monitors are very important. You kind of get what you pay for. But the most important thing is know your monitors. Know what they sound like. So when you get your mix to a certain point, you know that, okay, it sounds like this on my monitors. That means it's going to sound good out there. It's going to translate outside of my room. So when you put it in your car, it's going to sound good in your car. If you play it on iPhone, it's going to sound good on an iPhone. If you play it on a busted stereo, it's going to sound okay. And you need to know what it sounds like on your monitors so that when you go outside of your room, it's going to sound okay. So the most important thing is to know what your monitors sound like. The smaller the monitors, the less low end you're going to hear. And if you're doing dance music or hip hop or something that requires a lot of low end work, you're going to want to get speakers that have a bigger woofer, maybe 8 to 10 inches. I have Dynaudio BM5As, and now that's a little smaller than I would prefer. I'm looking to invest in to get bigger speakers because I'm starting to do more production in dance, EDM, hip hop, stuff like that. So I actually need bigger woofers. Think about your budget and plan accordingly when it comes to monitors. And as far as headphone goes, I have two kinds of headphones. I have tracking headphones. These are about $50 from Guitar Center, but what they do is they block all noise coming in and they block all noise going out. So when I put these on, I can't really hear anything. But they're great because I could have them very loud, and I like to have them very loud, but they're not going to allow the sound to travel out of the headphones and bleed into the microphone when I'm recording a voice or something like that, or even acoustic guitar. And so these are my tracking headphones. So these are more of my mixing headphones. I like to use these when I'm mixing or producing late at night, and I can't have too much noise going on because then I disturb, everybody. And these are the DT770 Pro. These are pretty good. I wouldn't want to mix with these per se, but they sound really good. They make everything sound good, so I'm having a lot of fun while I'm producing, making music, and listening on these headphones. Alright, so that's basically it. You got your microphone, you've got your converter, you've got your computer, you got your recording software, and some type of listening device. Now if I was going to add another thing to that list, I would probably add basic room treatment. Now I wouldn't consider this a home studio necessity because you could make great music without room treatment. It's just highly recommended. I've been in rooms where there's zero acoustic treatment but they're making awesome professional music. But it does help a little bit because what happens is rooms they have their own sound. So it's not only that you need to learn what your monitors sound like, you need to learn what your monitors sound like in your room. But that just comes with time, and you'll definitely learn that. Because rooms have different sounds. Just think about when you're in a little room, like a home studio, which is usually the case, or when you go to a gymnasium. It's going to sound epic in a gymnasium. And so rooms sound a little bit different, and you're going to have to learn your room. And what room treatment does is it basically minimizes the effect that your room has on the sounds that you're listening back to and the sounds that you're recording. So if you're recording an acoustic guitar, and if I didn't have room treatment, this acoustic guitar would be recorded, it would sound a lot different in the microphone because sound is bouncing around in a room and it's going to bounce back to the microphone. But if sound is being absorbed by acoustic panels, then the microphone is not going to get those late reflections because they have already been absorbed or they've been scattered by something called diffusers. One of the biggest things that small rooms or home studios have to deal with is low-end frequencies. And so if I was going to invest in basic room treatment, I would get bass traps and corner traps, because bass frequencies, low end, love to live in the corners of a room. And so that's what I would get. And then after I got bass treatment, I would look at something called the first reflection points. That's another thing I would look at. But there's some great websites that have great videos on the best types of panels to get, the best types of acoustic treatment to get, and where to put them in home studios. Real Traps has a great website and great videos, and GIK Acoustics have some great videos and great advice. Another thing I would get as far as basic room treatment, I guess it's not really considered room treatment, but I would get reflection filters, like this one around my microphone. This just helps kind of simulate a vocal booth. A vocal booth is going to make the vocal very dry. And the reason why you want a vocal very dry, or sometimes even when you record instruments you want them very dry, is so that you could make your own effects. If you wanted it to sound like you're in a room, you could add a reverb. But if you didn't want to sound like you're in a room and you recorded in a room, then there's not much you could do. It's going to sound like you're in a room. That's what these reflection filters do. They take out the effect that the room has on the sound of my voice as I'm recording into the microphone. And so that's what I would recommend. I'd recommend getting some bass traps, and if you want to go even further, get some first reflection, absorption, and then also invest in some type of reflection filters for your vocal microphone. Finally, what not to do. You're going to be so tempted to buy lots of things. You want to get all sorts of different microphones. You want to get all sorts of outboard gear. You're going to be tempted to get all sorts of plugins. The recording software that you get, Pro Tools, Logic, Ableton, they all come with so many great stock plugins already that you really don't need much else. The biggest thing you can do is invest your time into developing your skill and taste. At the end of the day, that is what is most important. Whether you use a Waves plugin or a Universal Audio plugin doesn't really matter. It really doesn't matter. It matters how you use it. That really matters. And I wish you guys the best. I hope this video was helpful for you. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time, guys. Thanks a lot.